Tonight, we again present the famous Mr. Chameleon of Central Headquarters in his most famous cases of crime and murder. For those who do not know who Mr. Chameleon is, we give a quick sketch of his character. Born of a well-to-do family and a college man, he tried from childhood to live up to the name he bore, Chameleon, by taking on the color of whatever situation in which he found himself, appearing in endless guises, finally entering the police force where he became known as Chameleon, the man of many faces, the underworld's most dreaded man. Throughout this series, the listener will invariably know who Mr. Chameleon is, no matter in which disguise he appears. But the criminal he's tracking seldom does. Tonight we give you Mr. Chameleon and the case of death and the dependent husband. It is late afternoon, and in the modernistic bedroom of her East 50s apartment, Andrea Shepard is packing and trying to give her sympathetic attention to her husband, John, who is stretched out on the bed. And she says to him gently,
"Oh, darling, please. Why must you torment yourself with all these doubts? You know I love you. I hate to leave you like this. But after all...
You have to bring home the bacon. You're Andrea Shepard, the successful fashion designer, and aren't I lucky that you are so successful?
John.
According to your friends, I'm the luckiest man in the world. They don't even believe I'm sick. They say I like having you support me.
Well, I know better. John, dear, I should be back Friday morning.
Cliff, that charming half-brother of mine, even accuses me of being in love with your secretary.
Oh, certainly by Friday noon at the latest. The fashion show takes place on Thursday night, and if I can catch a sleeper back to New York, I will. Otherwise, I'll fly.
Andrea, are you listening to me?
Oh, John, you forget I've heard all this 1,000,000 times before.
But they all say...
I don't care what my friends say. I don't care what your half-brother Cliff says. He's no good. You've lent him too much money as it is.
Yes, and he hates me for it. He's even threatened me. He says if you really understood me, you'd leave me.
Well, I do understand you, and I shan't leave you. As for your being in love with my secretary, darling, well, I'm very fond of Louise Clark, but I really don't think she's a threat to our marriage.
I must admit she's got quite a crush on me. She knows I'm sickly, that I don't just sponge on you.
So do I, John. And now, please, will you stop thinking about it? Just take care of yourself until I get back. And before you know it, darling, I will be back. John, I'm home. John, sweetheart.
Andrea. Oh, Andrea, thank heavens you're here.
Well, Louise, what's the matter?
He's dead. He's dead.
Who?
John.
John.
When I got here this morning to go over your mail, he didn't answer the bell. The superintendent let me in, and we found him in the kitchen, slumped over the table. He'd been dead for hours, Andrea. He'd been poisoned.
John dead? No. No, he can't be. John! John!
And now, at Central Headquarters in the office of the Commissioner of Police, we find the Commissioner restlessly pacing the floor. And with him is the famous Mr. Chameleon, the man of many faces, the scourge of the underworld, who at present looks completely mild and harmless as he smiles and says,
"You know, Commissioner, if you aren't careful, you're going to burst a blood vessel."
Well, it's 3 months since John Shepard was murdered, and we haven't dug up enough evidence to hold anyone.
Well, what about the half-brother and Mrs. Shepard's secretary?
We had to let them go.
Oh?
What else could we do? Now, Louise Clark is an emotional, neurotic young girl who admitted she had an unrequited love for John Shepard.
Unrequited love is a form of poison, too.
Sure it is, Chameleon. But Andrea Shepard stuck by the girl, just the way she stuck by her hypochondriac husband. As for Cliff Shepard, the brother, well, he's a bad egg. Apparently he lived off John.
Who lived off his wife. Sound like charming people.
Well, the brothers hated each other. The night that John died, Cliff was quarreling with him. Yeah, we had a fine case against Cliff.
But you had to let him go.
And we couldn't prove that Cliff had brought John those almond cakes in which we found the poison. The bakery that sold them had 100 customers that day.
So the poison was inserted later, eh? Well, nothing will kill the taste like almond flavoring.
Exactly, Chameleon. Furthermore, we could find no trace of where it was bought. So we had to let Cliff Shepard and Louise Clark go. Now, don't start quoting that pet motto of yours, the innocent must be protected and the guilty punished. I'm not in the mood.
It's still a good motto, Commissioner.
I wish you'd been free at the time to take the case. After 3 months, the trail's pretty cold.
Well, that has its advantages, too. After 3 months, the killer feels fairly safe. Look, Commissioner, let's send out a story saying the Shepard murder is an unsolved case. That'll make them feel even safer.
All right.
Good. Meanwhile, I want to meet Andrea Shepard, murdered man's wife, and her secretary, and Cliff Shepard. Let's see now, how'll I do that? What sort of a man would start courting a 3-month widow because he'd fallen in love with a picture in the papers?
I'd say a fool, Chameleon.
Yes. No, that's it. A fool. But an entertaining fool. With money in his pocket. Maybe he works for a big chemical company. Yes, I can see him, Commissioner. A natty dresser who laughs all the time at his own jokes. Yes, sir, Larry Whitlock is quite a card.
Is that going to be his name, Chameleon?
That is going to be my name, Commissioner. From this point on, I am Larry Whitlock. Darling, can hardly wait till tonight. Your witless friend, Whitlock. How's that, Dave? That's not bad, eh?
You know, Mr. Chameleon, if you have to keep this up much longer, you're honestly going to start thinking those jokes are funny.
Well, never mind, Dave. I'm making headway. Tonight, for the first time, I'm having dinner with Andrea Shepard. Took weeks of flowers and telegrams to do it, but at last I'm having dinner with her at the Coronet Restaurant.
Alone?
Dave, for a detective sergeant of police, you ask more questions.
Alone?
No. Philip Hawley will be with us. He's the dress manufacturer for whom she does most of her designing. Nevertheless, I expect to escort her home. And finally, meet that little secretary of hers, Louise Clark.
Mr. Chameleon, tell me something. Aren't you working awfully slow?
In this case, it's necessary. You see, we're up against a killer who's exceptionally clever. One false move will never get him. Well, now that does it. Yeah, those roses should convince Mrs. Shepard that I'm an ardent admirer. 3 dozen. You see, that's Larry Whitlock for you. Always a little too much of everything.
Well, good luck tonight.
Well, the same to you, Dave. Have a nice trip. And if you get that information, call me immediately.
Oh, yes, I will, Mr. Chameleon.
Dave, please. The name is Larry. Good old Larry Whitlock, who doesn't have the sense he was born with, but he's going to be the life of the party if it kills him.
Oh, really, Larry, your humor is certainly not subtle. I don't know why I even laugh at it. Do you, Philip?
Well, he doesn't. I haven't heard Mr. Hawley laugh once.
I don't have to, Mr. Whitlock. You make up for it.
Not bad, not bad. It's not bad at all. Is it, Andrea? He has a nice wit, too.
What do you
mean,
mean,
too? Yeah. Beat you to it, Mr. Hawley, or rather we came out even.
Mr. Whitlock, do you mind if I ask you a question? If you really work for that big chemical company...
Well, don't you believe I do?
Well, it's simply amazing to me that you ever stopped laughing long enough to hold such a job.
Philip, really, you're being very rude. Larry's my friend, and he's done me a lot of good. I, for one, can use a little laughter.
I'm sorry, Andrea. You're absolutely right. Mr. Whitlock, I apologize.
Your apologies accepted, Mr. Hawley.
No. Seriously, you've been extremely good for Andrea. And as her friend and employer, I appreciate that. I'm only sorry that I have to leave the two of you so early. But you'll see that she gets home all right, won't you, Mr. Whitlock?
Oh, don't worry. Though I warn you, I'll make love to her all evening.
Well, that's all right, just as long as she keeps on laughing.
Oh. Andrea, I don't think he takes me seriously, but he will someday. He will. Now, let's see. What do I want for dessert?
Oh, yes, we'd better order it if Philip has to leave soon.
Yes. I know. That cake with almond filling that they make a specialty of here. I'm simply crazy about anything with an almond filling. Well, what's the matter? Oh, Andrea, oh, darling, I'm so sorry. How stupid of me. I completely forgot about your husband. Andrea, darling, are you still upset?
Oh, Larry, of course not. Please stop talking about it. Oh, this is my apartment. You'll come in for a minute, won't you?
Well, I'll come in for several minutes. But I know that you've been upset. You've hardly heard what I said during the past hour.
Well, Larry, I was a little upset. I loved John very much. He was both my husband and my child.
Well, who do you think killed him? Surely not your secretary. Now, you said you have her living here with you. Surely if you thought she'd killed him...
Larry, Louise is a very tragic girl. But lately she's frightened me. She's even talked of suicide.
No.
In fact...
No, I won't do it. You had no business to come here and threaten me this way.
What's that?
What's Louise? And someone must be with her.
I'll come here as often as I please. And you won't make trouble for me. Not after tonight.
It's Cliff, John's half-brother. What's he doing here? How dare he come here this way? How dare he? Cliff.
Well, Andrea, what a pleasant surprise. We didn't expect you home for hours.
Louise, how did he get in here?
He was here when I got back from the movies, Andrea. He let himself in with a skeleton key.
What?
Sure I did. I thought I'd take a look around. I'm trying to find out who killed poor John.
You mean you were after money? He asked me for money, Andrea. And then he started saying terrible things about John and me again.
All of them true. John himself told me you were so crazy in love with him, you scared him to death.
Be quiet and get out.
Oh, I know. You're so loyal, Andrea. Just the way you were loyal to your chiseler of a husband.
I said get out. I'm fully convinced it was you who killed John. It was just too bad the police couldn't hold you.
Well, let me tell you something. I heard from certain friends of mine that a man named Chameleon has been put on the job. The smartest detective in the business. You never know when he's around. You never know. Anyway, somebody better start watching his step.
And what are you so scared of, old boy? Or shouldn't I ask?
What?
And where did you hear this rumor? Do you have friends in the underworld, eh?
Who the devil are you? Andrea, who is he?
This is a friend of mine, Mr. Whitlock. Larry, this is Cliff Shepherd. And this is my secretary, Louise Clark.
How do you do, Mr. Whitlock?
How do you do? And as for you, old boy, I wish I could say I was glad to meet you, but I'm sure you wouldn't want me to tell a lie now, would you? Huh?
Very funny. Where'd you pick up this character, Andrea? Consoling yourself pretty quickly, aren't you?
Listen, old boy.
And don't call me old boy. I might suddenly decide to slap you down.
Oh, really? You mean like this?
Larry!
Mr. Whitlock!
What did you do to me? You threw me over your shoulder. How did you do it?
Nothing to it, old boy. That's just something I studied in college. In fact, I majored in it. Shall I do it again?
No.
Well, then I suggest that you leave quietly. Andrea already has asked you twice. I, my friend, will ask you only once.
Oh, Larry, really, it was just too funny. I didn't expect it from you.
I know. Most people think I'm good for nothing except clowning, Andrea. You know, if I were you, I'd be afraid of Cliff.
I am.
You also should be a little afraid of your secretary, Louise Clark. That's a very sick girl. You don't know which way she'll jump.
Poor child. She's probably crying herself to sleep right now. Larry, you see that cigarette box on the table next to you?
Yes.
Open it.
Oh. Plays a tune.
Yes, that was John's favorite piece. Louise gave him the box. She spent a whole week's salary for it. Larry!
What was that?
It sounded like Louise. It came from her room.
Come on.
Louise! Louise, are you all right?
Miss Clark?
Try the door.
It's locked.
Locked? Oh, no. Louise, open the door! Oh, what's happening in there? Larry, what's happening?
Get out of the way, Andrea. I'm going to break in the door.
Louise.
Miss Clark, what happened? Who did this?
Oh, she's ill. Look, Larry, they're on the dresser. Some of the almond cakes, just like the ones that killed John.
Mr. Chameleon and the case of death and the dependent husband continues in just a moment. And now back to Mr. Chameleon and the case of death and the dependent husband. It is the following morning, and again we find Mr. Chameleon in the police commissioner's office. And this time it is he and not the commissioner who is pacing nervously about the room.
How is Louise Clark? What's the latest report, Commissioner?
I'm afraid she's still in a coma, Chameleon. I'm in her at the hospital, but she hasn't been able to talk, so we still don't know exactly what happened.
Well, do they think there's a chance that she might die?
Well, apparently there is.
What about Cliff Shepard?
He's gone.
I'm not surprised.
We sent out an alarm for him right after you telephoned, but he'd already skipped.
Did they check on the almond cakes?
Miss Clark herself had bought them. The baker was able to swear to that. He remembered her this time.
She and Shepard certainly had a fatal taste for almond cakes.
Well, Chameleon, you know as well as I do, it's the one thing that'll make that poison palatable.
Quite right, Commissioner. Well, that's one way of killing yourself.
You think that's what it was? Attempted suicide?
Possible. Almost anything is possible now. Lord knows Cliff Shepard had plenty of time to put the poison in those cakes. Been there at the Shepard apartment for some time when Louise Clark got in from the movies last night.
Well, Chameleon, does it occur to you that if Cliff murdered John Shepard, he might have hidden the poison right there in the apartment?
Oh, of course. Well, Commissioner, I guess it's up to me to locate that poison.
I wish you luck. The Shepard apartment was searched this morning. The boys couldn't find any trace of poison anywhere.
If only Dave Arnold would get in touch with me.
Well, apparently Detective Sergeant Arnold is having his troubles, too. That's the most elusive poison I've ever come up against.
I'd better get me a search warrant.
Hey, wait a minute, Chameleon. Do you really intend to search Mrs. Shepard's apartment?
I do. I have a hunch the poison's still there. And, Commissioner, I want to get my hands on it fast.
But how the devil will you work it? Now, you're disguised as Larry Whitlock, a gay young blade who's employed by a chemical company. What reason could you give her for searching the apartment?
The very best reason in the world, Commissioner.
I'm glad you find it so funny.
I'm sorry. As Larry Whitlock, I have acquired the bad habit of finding myself amusing. But it'll pass. And seriously, I'm going to search that apartment. And believe it or not, Andrea Shepard will let me go ahead and do it.
So you see, Andrea, I acquired an interest in chemistry at a very early age. And just between you and me, Darling, am I boring you? Because if I am, don't tell me.
Oh, Larry, really?
I haven't gotten a single laugh out of you all evening.
Well, there are times when people don't feel like laughing. You seem to forget Louise may be dying.
Oh. Did you go to the hospital this afternoon?
Yes. She didn't even recognize me. I'm so frightened, Larry. I have a terrible feeling I may be next.
Oh, no, darling. No, that's not possible. I'm here, aren't I? Not that that would stop it.
Oh, Larry.
Well, at least that got a little response. Andrea, I'm crazy about you. I'm simply crazy about you.
No, please.
No, I am. Now, don't pull away from me. I may be a clown, but I make love very nicely.
No, Larry, no.
Oh, saved by the bell.
Oh, you see, you can't even be serious about your lovemaking. Honestly, Larry, I've never known such a character. Hello?
If that's Philip Hawley, hang up.
What's that? Oh, just a moment, please. It's for you, Larry, Mr. Arnold calling you from Buffalo.
Oh, well, thank you. I left this number down at the hotel. Hello, Dave? Yes? You did? Good. Huh? Okay, Dave. That means I can close the deal immediately. Bye.
Well, that was a fascinating conversation. Business?
Yes, Andrea, a very big deal. And now, where were we? I was sitting with my left arm around
Larry,
you.
wait, I have something to tell you. I shouldn't even have let you bring me home tonight. You see, my dear, I'm going to marry Philip Hawley.
What?
Yes. I'm not in love with him. I'll never be in love with anyone but John. But he's kind and so solid.
And I'm not solid.
Hardly. Oh, you're fun and full of tricks that amuse people. But I want someone I can lean on. I'm sorry, Larry.
Well, darling, now I'll tell you something. I'm Mr. Chameleon.
Who?
Mr. Chameleon.
You mean the famous detective? The one that Cliff Shepard was talking about?
Yes.
Oh,
What's the matter?
Oh, I get the point. If I'm going to marry Philip Hawley, you're Mr. Chameleon. You really don't believe I'm going to marry Philip, do you?
And you don't really believe I'm Mr. Chameleon. Fair enough.
Well, I am going to marry Philip Hawley. And I certainly don't believe you're Mr. Chameleon, the famous detective.
Well, then I'll have to prove it to you, darling. I'm going to search the apartment.
Oh, Larry, you idiot.
Yes, I am. Andrea, where shall I start? I wonder if the poison could be hidden in these books.
Oh, now listen, Larry, fun is fun.
No, nothing in the books. Well, what about this vase? No, nothing in there either.
Larry, how long do you intend to keep this up? You certainly run a joke right straight into the ground.
I have to prove to you that I'm Mr. Chameleon, don't I?
I'm afraid I'll have to prove to you that I'm in no mood for jokes tonight. Will you forgive me, Larry, if I get you your hat?
What? Go ahead, Andrea. Will you forgive me if I tap the woodwork to see if it's hollow?
Oh, go ahead.
No, seems to be perfectly solid. Just like my head. Beat you to it, darling.
Larry, where did you leave your hat?
Put it in the closet. Now, let's see. Cigarette box. Musical cigarette box that plays a tune when you raise the cover. Nothing but cigarettes. Unless...
What are you doing?
What, dear?
What are you doing with that box?
Well, I'm going to examine it. Thoroughly, I might add.
No, put it down. I won't have anyone touching that box. It belonged to John. Put it down.
So that's where the poison is hidden. I thought so. Well, I'll have to pry off the top of the lid.
Don't you touch it.
My. But we're getting excited, aren't we? Let's see, where is my penknife? Here we are.
I warn you, if you touch that box, Larry, I will...
Chameleon is the name. And I happen to have a search warrant right here with me.
You won't need it, Chameleon. Put it away.
What?
Philip.
Well, if it isn't Mr. Philip Hawley, the not-so-solid businessman, my successful rival, or John Shepherd's successful rival, I might add. The two of you planned his death together, didn't you?
Save your breath, Chameleon. It won't do you any good. And drop that penknife. That's better. Andrea, search him. See if he has a gun.
I haven't.
Search him, Andrea.
But, Philip, you don't think... He's not really Mr. Chameleon?
Of course he is. Oh, he fooled me, too. But you, Andrea, you little moron, you had to give it away.
He guessed the poison was in the music
Guessed?
box.
You practically told him.
I couldn't help it. I was so nervous. Why shouldn't I be nervous?
Why, that's right. It's poor Andrea who did all the dirty work. First John and then Louise, because Louise might suspect. As Andrea so rightly said, why shouldn't she be nervous?
Aren't you just a bit nervous, Mr. Chameleon? You should be. You'll never get out of here alive to tell your story.
I don't have to.
What do you mean?
Well, that phone call a moment ago was from Detective Sergeant Arnold, who was calling me from Buffalo. He called me, Andrea, to tell me that at last he'd managed to trace the sale of that poison.
Philip.
See, I sent Dave to Buffalo because I knew that you had spent quite a lot of time there, supervising your fashion shows. It was on one of your last trips that you purchased the poison, under another name, but the man who sold it will identify you.
If he finds her.
Also, needless to say, if anything happens to me, the police will know who did it.
Philip, he's right.
Yes, Andrea, but there's one little thing he's forgotten. At least if we get rid of him, we can make a run for it. How about it, Chameleon? Isn't that true?
Quite true.
Philip, don't go so close to him.
Don't be silly. You don't think I'm afraid of him. I have a gun, and he has nothing. Nothing. Have you, Chameleon?
No.
Just the same, don't go too close to him, Philip!
That's too bad. Andrea never did get a chance to tell you I was an expert at jiu-jitsu.
Andrea, when I dropped that gun, why didn't you pick it up?
She was too nervous, Mr. Hawley. Anyway, I have it now, and I think the three of us will take a little ride to police headquarters.
You see, Mr. Chameleon? They hid the poison right here inside the music box. Right under the edge of the lid.
Very clever, Dave. Would you like to take a look at it, Miss Clark?
No, please, Mr. Chameleon. I never want to see that box again.
Okay, Dave, take it away.
Yes, sir.
Miss Clark, may I say something? You're all right now. The doctors managed to save you from that poison. But there's more than one kind of poison, you know. You must try to forget this. You must forget John Shepherd.
I will. I made up my mind I will, Mr. Chameleon. I was afraid I'd be accused of murder. There's only one thing I can't understand.
Oh?
Why did Andrea kill John? Why didn't she simply divorce him?
I suppose that only a psychiatrist could really answer that one. My guess is that Andrea Shepherd had played a part for years, and she loved it. She loved being the noble young wife. People felt sorry for her. They admired her. They wouldn't have admired her so much if she'd thrown aside a sick husband in order to marry Philip Hawley. You see, when I finish a job, I put aside my disguise. Andrea Shepherd couldn't bear to put aside hers.
And with these words, Mr. Chameleon concludes tonight's murder case. Listen next Wednesday night at this same time for Mr. Chameleon, the man of many faces, in The Vestibule Murder Case. The part of Mr. Chameleon is played by Carl Swenson, with dialogue by Marie Baumer from the original story by Frank and Ann Hummert. Music directed by Victor Arden. Your announcer is Howard Claney. Mr. Chameleon, the new mystery drama, will be heard in another performance next Wednesday night at this time. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.